So I know we don't have much time on stage, but I want to kind of back up and kind of tell you my story on how I got started. So about 30 years old, I went flat broke trying to start an app, right? I gave up my job, went flat broke. I had to move back home with my mom at 30. My mom's Jamaican. How many of you guys got foreign parents? Right? So you get it, right? So I had to go back home. It was like I was 13 all over again. So I lived with home with my mom and I had to do something different. And I came across a friend that his dad was into real estate. He was an investor, but I just didn't know what exactly was he was doing or how he became so rich. I knew he was rich, but I didn't know how rich. I went to his house one day. He started talking about real estate and he said the word wholesaling. How many of you guys have a degree from YouTube University? Thank you. I have about 4 of them. I'm actually working on my doctorate right now from YouTube University. So I went on YouTube University. I started looking up people and listening to podcasts. I became completely obsessed. How many of you guys have been obsessed over a boyfriend or girlfriend? Don't lie. Put your hands up. So that's the type of level of obsessed I was with real estate. I became so obsessed that in 3 weeks, I started driving for dollars. Now, what that means is you basically drive around your neighborhood, your town, and you start looking for houses that seem abandoned or vacant. Right? We all see those houses, but the mind right now tricks you to actually not look at those things because they're eyesores. So you drive past these things. I guarantee you when you leave here and you get home, by tomorrow, you're gonna be driving and your eyes is gonna be peeled open and you're gonna start seeing houses that look vacant and abandoned. Right? Just because I told you what to look for. So I was driving through an old neighborhood that I used to live in, that I grew up on the same street, and on the corner there was this house, 114 Flintfield. You'll never forget your first deal, by the way. You'll never forget your first deal. I pulled up to the house, it had high grass, the bushes were tall. I'm like, wow, this is it. This is what they were talking about in YouTube videos. So, used to be in a former bondsman, I knew how to find people. Well, it was actually pretty easy. This house was what they called in probate. So I went downtown to the probate office and I gave the name of the deceased person. They in turn gave me a file. In the file was the executor, the person who was in charge of this property. And her name and her phone number was right there. I never forget her name, Amy Honeycutt Mitchell. You'll never forget your first deal, I promise you. So I call Amy Honeycutt Mitchell. I tell her, hey, look, I'm a real estate investor, which I wasn't. I never bought a house ever before. And I said, hey, I want to buy your house here on Flintfield. She said, I was actually thinking about selling it. It's been sitting vacant for a year. I rented it to a friend and they never paid me rent. And I inherited it from my grandmother. And I'm like, great, this is awesome. So she inherited the property. She put a friend in there. They didn't pay rent for a whole year. The house was tore up. So she said, I'm actually thinking about selling it. Let me call my husband. She said, but he works over the road, so it'll probably be 2 or 3 days before I can get back to you. 30 minutes later, she calls me and says, hey, I want to sell. What do you want to offer? I didn't know what to offer. I said, hey, can I call you back? Right? You don't know what to do. So I started doing some numbers and I'm like, hey, look, I'll give you $30,000. And she's like, let me think about it. I'm going to call my husband again. She calls me back like another 20 minutes. She said, how about 33? I said, it's a deal. Now here we are. I'm living at home. I don't have any money. This car I drove was terrible. I had a 2004 Volkswagen Jetta with a bad starter. How many of you guys know what a bad starter is? Don't be ashamed because I'm raising my hands. All right, so you got to hit the starter every time you want to start the car because it just doesn't work, right? So I'm that guy. And so I don't have $30,000. I'm actually negative money because I actually had to overdraft my bank account to fill my car up so I can drive for dollars. So I had negative. So that $30 gas tank ended up being like, 65, the 35. Don't act like y'all don't know the overdraft fees, okay? So the overdraft fees killed me. And so I'm driving for dollars on my last tank of gas that I got, and I find this property. The lady says she wants to sell it. We agree on a price on 33. I have no idea what I'm doing. I go to my mom's house. I steal her lawnmower so I can cut the grass so I can take a good picture. Turns around, I take a picture and I put it on Facebook Marketplace. Not even 20 minutes, somebody's driving up to the house wanting to buy it. Well, first didn't work out for them because it was too much work. But then a lady called me and said, hey, my husband's out of town and he buys investment property. We just sold our last one. We're looking for another one. I said, great. She said, can he come see it tomorrow? I said, perfect. He goes and sees it. I said, the back door's open. I couldn't even afford a lock at this point. The back door's open. He goes in the back. He calls me and says, hey, Max, this looks great. Can I have my wife come over with me tomorrow? I said, sure. He makes me an offer. I forget what it was, like $54,000. There were some back taxes. Anyways, I ended up making $14,000 in about 3 weeks with that deal. And that started my career in real estate investing. I became so obsessed. It just was, because you go from negative money to $14,000, that's tremendous. So the following week I got my next deal, $7,000. So here I am in a month, I made 21 grand and I never looked back. So I tell you that story because I know a lot of people are in similar positions to where I was, where they thought that it was it. You're at the point where you are. You don't know anything about real estate and you want to get into real estate. Well, getting into real estate, wholesaling is the way that you can start to build wealth. Now I run a multi-million-dollar wholesaling company in North Carolina that we buy all across the country. So we buy in between like 7 and 13 deals every single month. And you can do the same thing. Now here's what I tell you. This just started. My first contract was September 28th, 2016. So I just started in this business 2.5 years ago, and now I don't have to work again ever if I was smart with my money. But I do want to buy a few toys, so I'm gonna have to keep working. So I've retired my mother. I put my sister through college. I've done so much in this very short amount of time, and you can do that too. So don't ever look at yourself and say that you can't do something, because it's very, very, very possible. You just need to know how to do it. So now about the backstory. That's done. So a couple ways we find properties is we're problem solvers. What happens is people inherit property, buy property, get property in some way, shape, or form, and they can no longer afford it, don't want it, or it's just too much work for them. We solve problems. So if a person is behind on back taxes, if they inherited a property in Atlanta, but they now live in Denver, Colorado, and they don't want anything to do with it, and it was grandma's house, grandma's house from the 70s show, that you only went there for Christmas, it's bad, it's not up to date. So you in Denver saying, I don't want this, I want to sell it. So what happens is these people inherit properties, have taxes, so many different reasons, divorces, moving out of state quickly. We solve their problems by alleviating them of that house that they no longer want. And by doing that, it's no different than a pawn shop. You can buy a TV on Friday worth $1,000, and on Monday you need to pay rent, so you go to the pawn shop and he's gonna give you $250. It's just how it works. They do the same exact thing with houses. We're just not used to playing in that arena. You can wholesale anything. I can wholesale these chairs from China. I can wholesale those speakers, but we just decided to do real estate because the margins are much bigger, okay? So now that I told you how we find these, one way I would tell anybody that's out here is to put some gas in your car, and this weekend I want you to go driving for dollars. What that literally means is I want you to go drive in neighborhoods and places you've never been before. Never been before. And not even gonna tell you to download an app or anything, just write the address down. But if you can't afford an app, there's an app called Deal Machine. Download that app. It literally drives with you and you take a picture of the house while you're doing it. But literally write down the addresses of all the ugly houses you can find and then start researching who owns them. And then once you do that, you're gonna make contact with them and you're gonna find out what their problem is, because remember, we're problem solvers. There's a reason why that house is sitting there boarded up with high grass and it's vacant. So find out why and then try to solve that problem and make them an offer. So now we know how to find properties. What do you do next?
Well, let me touch on something real quick. So finding a property, driving for dollars, we all see the boarded ones up there. But guess what? If they're boarded up, guess who else saw it? The other 1,000 wholesalers that went down that exact same street. Mm-hmm. So here's what I like to do. I don't like to look for the exact ones that everybody else was getting. So here's some of the tricks I use. Find out when trash day is. Okay, find out when trash day is. And especially here in Atlanta, you take those green trash cans and you bring them all out to the front, right? You drive down the street, trash can, trash can, trash can, trash can. No trash can, okay? Either they were lazy, so like they didn't when they come home from school, right? Or that house, no one's in that house at that particular time. Those are some of the look for. Also, code violations will eventually people have code violations. If they don't take care of them, eventually sometimes the city will come out and cut the grass. So then you don't see.
So what's a code violation?
Good question. So code violations, so let's say you drive past the house and the grass is this tall, right? Code enforcement must come up there and cite the owner and say, listen, you need to handle this grass situation because it's detracting from the neighborhood. Now, if I don't know I own the property, which sometimes happens, or I just don't care about the property, or like he said, I live in Denver now, I might not ever see that. Eventually the city's like, all right, this guy is not doing anything with the property. They'll cut the grass for you, but only in the front. Right, so what we're going to do right now, was a probate deal, we got $40,000 off this deal because I took the time to go around on the back side of the house, right? And I saw that the grass was high in the back. And I said, everybody else is seeing the front, that looks clean, right? But the backside tells you a whole different story. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you check all those things as well. So once sorry, I'll give you one more. Let me give you one more. This one. You guys, when you drive dollars enough, you will see this. For some reason, I don't know why it is. I don't know if it's the post office. People, when the houses are empty, you won't see the numbers on the not always, okay? But I've noticed that the mailbox is off or the numbers for the address is off. So I saw another house today, about 2 months ago, that we got a contract on. We went over there was no mailbox. How are you getting mail? Obviously, there's nobody living in it. These are the small things that you can look for that other wholesalers are not going to see because they're just going to look for the ones with the boards on the windows. Those ones everybody's calling. So now that we found this property, right? We found this property. We need to go onto the county website. Most people from here, from Fulton County, or from the surrounding area, or we all out of town.
All right, Dave.
So most places are really similar. You go to the county website, okay, and you're going to look up the owner of that property. All right. Once we find that owner of that property, we're going to skip tracing. Now, you can use a number of different things. REI skip is one that I use. Okay, that's something we're going to go ahead and skip tracing. So skip tracing is basically when I put the information in. Okay, they're going to give me the person's first name, last name, and the address of the property that we just drove by with the car. Okay, you're going to put that information in, and at that point, we're going to go ahead and skip tracing. We're going to get their phone numbers, and we're just going to make a simple call. And maybe we should do like a little role play here on how that sounds.
Got one mic.
One mic, okay, we'll flow back and forth, then it'll be a little weird, all right? But I'll let Max go ahead and be the wholesaler, and I'll be the person that picks it up. So this is good because no one, a lot of times we say, hey, just go ahead and make phone calls. What do I say? Like, what's the words that, like, what are the words that are the trigger words? Everybody wants the magic pill. Like, what do I do? So here's a chance for you guys to hear it live. We did not prepare for this at all. So this is all from, all right? So bear with us, right? So I'm gonna act like I'm someone who he just called. Ring, hello?
Hey, Tommy. So you notice, even though I don't know if it's him on the phone, I'm gonna act like it's him anyways. Because if anybody calls your phone and says, hey, is this Max? I'm hanging up. Because that means they don't know me.
Bill collector.
Right? Bill collector. I ain't got it. So when the phone rings, hey, Tommy, this is Max. How you doing?
I'm all right. Who's this again?
Oh, it's Max. You know, I live in Atlanta. I'm a local real estate investor. I was driving up and down the street. Do you own 123 Main Street?
Yeah, I do. But like, how'd you get my number?
Well, I was driving up and down the neighborhood. Some lady was walking a dog. I stepped out to look at the property, and she told me that you might be interested in selling it. I just made that up right there. It doesn't matter. But every neighborhood's got somebody walking a dog. So it's good to go. Or you can say, hey, look, I got your information from public record, right? It doesn't matter. Give them some type of excuse. Well, I just got your information from public record. And are you interested in selling the property at all?
I mean, I thought about it. Me and my wife, we talked about it, but we kind of are. It's been a little problem, you know. It was willed to me. My aunt passed away, and she gave it to me. I thought it was pretty good that she did that. But honestly, man, it's not in really good shape. It doesn't really look too well.
So Tommy, sorry to hear about that, but have you thought about making this like a rental property to get some income from it?
Yeah, I did, and we had a contractor come out there, and he told me it was going to be like $60,000. Now I'm not a rich man, so I don't have that type of money.
So these are like conversations really happen. The reason why I just pushed away, even though I want to buy it, I pushed him away. I said, have you thought about doing it yourself? Because I don't want to be looking at the desperate buyer. Like, hey, have you thought about selling it yourself or fixing up and putting some renters in it? He tells me that it's $60,000. So one, I already have an anchor number of what he thinks it's going to cost to fix. So remember, homeowners say things cost this, and it could be more or less.
Tell them what anchoring.
Oh, so anchoring is when you get that first price or number from them, and they now anchor themselves. So either I like to throw out an anchor very slowly. That's a real in-depth conversation. But anchoring is when somebody throws out that first number for the conversation. So he's like, oh, $60,000. So I said, yeah, man, that's a lot of work. Well, when's the last time you've seen the property?
Oh man, it's been at least 2 years. I think we had a family reunion. It was probably about like 2017. I've been over there.
Well, I was driving by and I seen a sign in the yard, and it had said that you need to cut your grass. The city of Atlanta said that you need to cut it. So
what?
Yeah, you need to cut your grass, but you know, I wouldn't worry about that right now. You probably do have some extra fines on top of that. Do you pay? Are you up to date on your taxes?
Man, they always finding me, actually. Nah, I'll be honest with you. We just been, I'm just gonna be real with you, like, we've just had a rough time financially, and, you know, we haven't paid the taxes in a while, but, I mean, we're looking, what are you offering? Where are we going with this?
Well, here's the thing. I really can't make you an offer over the phone. I just haven't been inside the property. You haven't seen it for 2 years, so I really can't ask you some detailed questions. But, you know, what would you want to walk away with? If I was able to put some money in your pocket tomorrow, what would you be comfortably walking away knowing that I'm going to do all the $60,000 worth of work and take care of all those fines that you have? Is that something that interests you? What number are you looking at?
What, are you going to take care of the fines?
Everything.
This is real. Right. You know what? I probably have to talk to my wife about it. Mm-hmm. But man, if you take care of the fines and you put like, honestly, put like $25,000 in my pocket, I'll be ready to go.
True silence. I won't even acknowledge what he said. I'll just sit there.
That's important.
And I'll say, 25,000.
All right, but I mean, we're negotiable. So what do you thinking?
That's exactly what I was waiting for him to speak next. 25,000, you know, I don't know, it's a lot of work, and you know, maybe you should talk to your wife, because I don't think I can do 25,000. What now?
Babe.
Yeah, he got So
we're gonna talk about this right now.
Yeah, so maybe if you have a conversation with your wife, like I said, I can move pretty quickly, but I already know 25,000 is going to be a little bit too much for me. You know, what I'm asking you is, what type of cash in your pocket to get rid of this headache tomorrow? What can I do? What kind of cash is that?
I mean, if you can close quickly, we can.
Yeah.
We got this trip we're trying to go on.
It's real stuff.
If you could honestly, if you could put like 14,000 in my pocket, like in 2 weeks. 14.
14?
14.
Now, when I say cash, I mean, I'm taking care of everything. This is money that's going to go, it's gone. You know, I'm thinking, I can pay 14, by the way, but I'm not going to tell them that.
I heard that.
Yeah. You know, if I'd be comfortable, and I can close pretty quickly. I can close tomorrow. Here's a key. But the real estate attorney is probably going to need about 2, maybe 3 weeks just to do a clear title search. But I'm ready to close now. Yeah, I can wire you the money right now, but unfortunately, that's not how it goes. So what I can do is, if we can come to a decision on, you know, $10,000, then, see, I just went down. If I can come to a decision on $10,000 a day, I'll go ahead and get my attorney started and just speed up this whole process, and we might be able to get you that money before you go on that trip.
Do 12, we gotta do. Come on now.
12.
Come on now. I know you got money. Like, I'm really feeling this. Like, I feel like.
Listen, how about we do 10 and I'll take you out for some chicken and waffles? I use that. That's a real sign. I really do use that.
11 in the waffles and we're good. 11.
Now, here's the thing, Tommy. If we do 11, we got to come to an agreement and get this signed today, because speed is what's going to make this work for both of us. So if we do 11, can you sign today if I send you over a digital contract?
Yeah, we can do that.
So that is how the phone, now you might not get that all in one phone call, but you'll eventually get that. And eventually these people are you're just talking to them. Because here's the thing, the city's going to take the house. They're going to knock it down. They're going to charge them to knock it down. They're going to pay all these bills in the back. You're alleviating a problem for him, even though he wants 25, but he's going to walk away with 11. You're going to alleviate a problem for him, and you're actually making the neighborhood look better, because that house is going to be, the neighbors hate that house. And matter of fact, if you see that house, go knock on the neighbor on the right and the left and across the street and say, do you know who owns this? Because they'd be like, oh my God, it's Tommy. He don't never cut that grass. Because people hate that when they cut their grass across the street, it looks perfect. I mean, it looks like trash. So it hurts their property value. So once you get a hold of the person, just have a casual conversation. I know a lot of people have fright of talking to people, especially strangers. It's just Tommy on the other line. You're just trying to see if you can solve a problem. Now, could Tommy have cussed me out? Absolutely. But I'm gonna call the next house, or I'm gonna call Tommy back in 2 days from now, right, when he's calmed down. So you're gonna get cussed out. It's part of the business. I got people working right now that are probably getting cussed out right now, but they're all making money because we keep calling and we keep calling. So now that we got the person and they agreed to a number, we're gonna now put it under contract. And what a contract basically looks like, it says, I, Max Maxwell, or my company name, is going to buy this property for $11,000. Sorry, let me back up. I, Max Maxwell, and or assigns. See, that small one word, and or assigns, the word assigns allows me to assign my interest. So here's what happens. When you put a contract under real estate, we talk about that car. Tommy pulled up in that S550 Mercedes and he said he wanted $30,000 on Monday and it's Friday. I say, Tommy, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give you $30,000 on Monday, but sign this contract, says I'm gonna bring you the money on between now and Monday. What can Tommy do with that car between now and Monday? He can't do anything because I have a contract with him that says he's gonna buy. So I have till Monday to bring him that money. So now that he's under contract, I now control, Tommy's driving it, it's in his name, but that's my car, at least till Monday. So now when you do it with real estate, you control the real estate deal. And when you control it with a contract, you now have what they call equitable interest. Write that word down, it's important. See, we're a common law country. So common law countries have what they call equitable interest. Through a contract, you can gain equitable interest from something. Now, what we are selling is not the house. We are now selling our equitable interest in that property. So now I have this property on the contract for $11,000 with Tommy. And I now have 3 weeks because that's what I put in the contract. So at this point, we now go find somebody that is buying in that area that has money that is gonna buy that for me more than I said I was gonna sell it for. And all they're buying is that sheet of paper that says I, Max Maxwell, and or assigns agrees to buy this property for 11. Now I might go to this guy over here and say, I'm going to sell you this property, this sheet of paper, this sheet of paper for 20. And he's gonna give, the difference between 11 and 20 is 9. So when he goes to the real estate closing table, the seller is gonna get their 11 and there's this 9 left over, which goes to me because I now sold him my contract with Tommy. Right? So you're probably thinking, how do you find buyers? What are some ways that you find buyers, Tommy?
So real quick, everybody heard of Zillow?
Zillow.
This is real simple. Like when you get into this game, you start to find little hacks. When I always tell the story, I started at $400 and he had a 30-minute phone consultation that cost $100 for 30 minutes, right? So I didn't have a lot of money. So I said, listen, I got $400, $100 I just gave you, I got $300 left, what do I do? So I didn't start with a lot of money, right? So I had to figure out ways of doing this. Who's been on Zillow and looked for a rental or seen a rental? The little purple dot, you know, everything's color coded, right? Guess what? Guess what those people are who are selling who are renters?
Investors.
They're investors. Those are investors. It's simple, right? So I go on Zillow, I literally go on to Zillow, I'll take off everything except for
rentals.
Those purple dots. Okay? And so if I find a house in an area, I'll say, okay, well, let me see who's renting properties out here. Oh, there's like 7 little purple dots there. Then guess what? Guess what? People who own property who want to rent, guess what they give out freely on Zillow?
Their phone numbers.
Their phone numbers. Everybody got signatures. Right? This is simple, guys. We don't have to make this hard. There's another way on Zillow. I'll give you another one on Zillow. If you guys don't know this, make sure you understand it. You should write this down. In about 90% of the banks will not give you a loan less than $50,000 for a mortgage. Okay? So if you take that little slide bar on Zillow, where it says, you know, you want to look for a house from $0 to like 8.4 million or whatever it is, right? And you drop that thing all the way down to 50, right? you're gonna see a lot of the people. They're gonna see like little clusters, right? Especially in Atlanta or any major city. You see little clusters where people are buying it. Well, guess what? Most times, those investors either bought with cash or hard money.
Cash.
So all I have to do is go see who those people who purchased them. And guess what? We already talked to you about how to skip trades, right? You get that information, you go to that property, you get the name, you look it up on the county records, see who the person is. If it's a company, if it's a business, okay, all we need to go is to the Secretary of State. So Georgia's SOS, or look up the business, you type that business in there, it's going to pop out the name, a registered agent, okay? That's what you're looking for, okay? Look for the registered agent, contact those people. Those are buyers that are buying in your neighborhood.
So, I mean, it boils down to this is pretty simple. I'm not a genius. I had less than a 2.0 GPA in high school. I did not go to college, but I am now doing pretty well. So the point is that you don't have to be smart. You don't have to have a lot of money. And so the barrier of entry is so low. But what I found out through talking about real estate over the last year and a half is that people don't have that motivation, that push to continue to do something. And it could be anything, right? So I just did a conference in Dallas. It was 1,200 people there. And the reality is less than 100 people will leave that room and go do something with the information they just gained. So I want you guys to change that standard. I don't care if you really like real estate or not. It could be a vehicle to open up your dance studio. It could be a vehicle to open up your 30 salons. It could be a vehicle to do whatever you want to do in life. But owning real estate is where you create wealth. And I'm now showing you, we are showing you a way where you can have an ATM machine by investing and doing real estate the wholesaling way.
So I want to leave here, we only got a little bit more time. I want to leave here with some actual steps, okay? So this is things that I'm going to challenge you. Like you just talked about, the things that we kind of walk you through this thing. We only have 40 minutes, right? We're going to leave here with actionable steps. Number one, tomorrow, actually no, tomorrow we got a conference. So Saturday or Sunday.
This weekend,
you are going to, listen, don't write this down if you're not going to do it. Just close your ears. This weekend, you're going to find 25 abandoned properties. Write that down. 25 abandoned, this is your homework.
Tall grass.
Everything we talked about. 25 abandoned properties. That same day, you're going to figure out where, because we're all from all around the country, you're going to figure out where you guys are at. Go onto the county website, and you're going to look at the person's, whoever owns that property. Okay?
So the county website is usually named like, so if whatever county. So if you're in Fulton County, it's probably Fulton County GIS or Fulton County GEO. GIS means Geographical Information Systems, but what is it?
So Fulton, if you're here in Fulton County, it's Fulton Tax Assessment, all right, .org. That's the actual website, right? Other places you're just going to look for it, okay? So we got our 25. Now we've put them in and we found out who they are. Now we are going to skip trace. There's some free software.
Yep.
I want you to try to do this for $0, okay? Free software.
So far you spent $0.
So far you spent a little bit of gas, right? All right. True People Search. It's free. Absolutely free. Now you have to go in there. It's not going to jump out at you, okay? You might put a person's name and information in, and there might be 10 of them. You're going to have to do a little research. Here's a good thing. If you can't find them, look at the put their name into the in Google and check to see if they're in the obituary. Okay? These are all tips and tricks that you need to do, right? You'll say his house was left to so-and-so, so-and-so. All right? After we do this, here's the hard part, guys. Here's the hard part. Call them. That's the hard part. Call them. So you got 25 properties this week. You're going to do this week. Everybody raise their hand. You're going to do this week? All right. This week, you're making 25 calls. Okay? And once that happens, you're going to set it up for an appointment. Just like we talked about, you don't have to spit out a number right there. You just want to get on an appointment. Okay? Once you get on that appointment, then at that point, guess what? You're going to be falling, right? You're going to be falling. Why? Because you need to figure out who's going to be buying in that neighborhood, and you're going to fall into doing the next step. And guess what? When you find out who that buyer is in that neighborhood, you're going to fall into, I got to find a closing attorney or a title company. And guess what? When you do that, you're going to fall into a closing. All right. So we're going to kind of wrap this up, and I'm getting a little Sandman hook here. all right? So we want to make sure
Sandman.
that you guys have some time to ask questions, all right? So we'll open up for some Q&A if anybody has any questions. We pass the mic back, or are we?
Stand up and say it out loud and proud.
Yeah, right, sorry.
Hey guys, I'm Michael Lopez. I'm a real estate investor right out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm trying to pull a water list from my county, but my county's just being a bit strict about it. So I was just wondering how I can pull a water list of vacant properties around the Charlotte metro area legally and inform them how I can actually acquire that information.
So his question is a water list. So say, the reason why people like to get a water list, right? Shut off. And I like to do it for 30 days or more. How many of you ever, don't lie, okay? You've all been through some stuff. How many of y'all has your electricity, you go and turn that switch off, and you're like, hold on, you touch the breakers real quick, right? And that might happen.
It's Sandman in you.
That might happen about for a week or two. But for water, you're not doing that, right? So if you have your water off for more than 30 days, most likely the house is empty. And then what you can do is you can ask someone, you might have to ask more than one person, okay? You might have to go through multiple people. Try to go to the top, that's what worked for me. I went through the low bottom of the person, bottom of the barrel person, I went to the top, and they were able to get it to me.
Yeah, so they're telling me we got to wrap this up. So I'm available for questions after this. I got to hit a flight here shortly, but we got 2 minutes. We got 2 minutes? Okay, cool. So 2 more questions. All right, so let me just answer yours real quickly. If you cannot get it, because I live in North Carolina, you have to find an attorney that's going to do a Freedom of Information Act request for you, okay? Pay a couple $100 for it. I personally got the list because I know how to do it, so you can go out and do it. You had a question in the back, and then I'm going to get to you.
My name is Dwayne Morris. I'm a firefighter, personal trainer in Alabama. I'm looking for some residual income to help build wealth. But my question is, if you get into wholesaling and you get the contract and you don't find a buyer in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, what happens?
Yeah, so in your contract, you're going to have what they call out clauses, or what I do in my contract is I pay $100 for a due diligence period, and that due diligence period is roughly 10 days. So certain in North Carolina, are you in Birmingham by chance? Huntsville, okay. So you can pay $100 for a due diligence period, but when you find a contract online, and any of you guys, a lot of these questions are in, I have a free Facebook group called Wholesaling Houses Elite. There's like 80,000 people in there. There's literally a person from your neighborhood in that group, I promise you. That's how many people are in it. So if you want to see what's a question, like if you want to get a contract from Alabama, go in the group. I guarantee there's one in there. If you want to find a closing attorney, there's one in there. All that type of stuff. Just don't go in there looking for buyers. Last question, yes sir.
I know that, my name's Chris. Most of the strategy around wholesale that you hear is around like dilapidated, like cheaper homes. Is there a different strategy or a twist to it?
So I do everything. So I do from you don't want it to you got to go. I do it. I just bought a house that I actually kept. It was about $350,000. I wholesale, but I kept it. But join the Facebook group. Find us on IG. Mine is The Real Maxwell. I also have a YouTube channel where I give away all this stuff for free. Tommy, close it out.
And mine is at Tommy Holt Jr. You can follow me at Tommy Holt Jr.